Hello. So we're going to review our Chapter 8 questions, read Chapter 9, and then we're actually going to skip over the asking questions worksheet page, and I'll show you why. And then homework. All right. So, Chapter 8. Our word that was defined was global. And your definition should say, throughout the world, refers to expanding one's market beyond the immediate area of production. So outside of where it started originally. Chapter 8 is told from Jesse's perspective. We might have also said third person. What document is the source of Jesse's business knowledge? That is the name of it is, blanking on the proper name right now. Let me go back a few chapters to find the name of it. What was it? 10 ideas I'm trying to find it. There we go. 10 bright ideas to light up your sails. And you might have said their mom wrote it or Mrs. Tresky wrote it. If someone wrote a comment card about you, what would you like it to say? This one was just a personal answer, so there's nothing wrong, okay? But a lot of us in class said we'd want people to say we're funny or kind or caring. So I hope yours says good things about yourself, because there are so many great things about you. Jessie worries about whose side Megan would be on if she knew about the Lemonade War. Whose side do you think she would choose and why? Be sure to support your opinion with evidence from the text. So our class was kind of torn half and half. A lot of people thought Megan would take Jessie's side because she's her friend now. She wrote her the compliment card. She's been doing lemonade stands with her every day, and she invited her to the beach. So she's her friend, so she would pick her side. But a lot of people thought Megan would pick Evan's side because they're in the same grade. And she keeps asking if Evan's able to come join them. So she wants him to be hanging out with them. So some people thought maybe Megan would go to Evan's side. And how do these events relate to the phrase? Because Jessie kind of goes global, right? Expands her business to include those 13 stands. All right. So let's go ahead and read Chapter 9 then. Chapter 9 is pretty short. Okay? It's called Negotiation. Negotiation. Noun. A method of bargaining so that you can reach an agreement. Evan looked up from the marble track he was building when Jessie walked in the front door. She looked hot. She looked sweaty. She looked happy. Really happy. Like she just gotten an A+. Or like she just won a war. What are you smiling for? Asked Evan, holding a marble at the top of the track. No reason. Jessie put her hands on her hips and stared at Evan. She looked like one of those goofy yellow smiley faces. All mouth. Well, quit looking at me, would ya? It's creepifying. You look like you're going to explode or something. Evan dropped the marble into the funnel. It raced through the track, picking up speed around the curves. It passed the flywheel, sending the flag spinning, then fell into the final drop. When it reached the end of the track, it went sailing through the air like a beautiful silver bird, and fell short. The marble landed on the ground instead of in the bullseye cup. Evan muttered under his breath and adjusted the position of the cup. Raise the end of the track, said Jessie. You'll get more loft. Evan looked at her angrily. The marble had fallen into the cup the last 10 times he'd done it. Why did it have to fall short the one time she was watching? Don't tell me what to do, he said. Why was she smiling like that? I didn't tell you what to do, she said. I just made a suggestion. Take it or leave it. She turned to walk up the stairs. Grump Minster Fink, she tossed over her shoulder. Evan threw a marble at her disappearing back, but missed by a mile. Well, he hadn't really been aiming anyway. He just wanted that feeling of throwing something. He'd been feeling the need to throw something these past 4 days. Grumpminster Fink was the name of a character he made up when he was 6 and Jessie was 5. That was back when Mom and Dad were fighting a lot, and Evan and Jessie just had to get out of the house. They'd scramble up the climbing tree. Evan had his branch, Jessie had hers, and waited out. Sometimes they had to wait a long time. And once, when Jessie was thirsty and impatient and cranky, Evan had said, "Be quiet, and I'll tell you a story about Grumpminster Fink." Grumpminster Fink was a man who was cranky and mean and made everybody miserable. But deep down, he wanted people to love him. It's just that every time he tried to do something nice, it turned out all wrong. Evan had made up a lot of stories about Mr. Fink in that tree. But after Dad left, there just weren't any more stories to tell. No one in the whole world besides Jessie and Evan knew about Grumpminster Fink, and Evan hadn't thought about him in years. "Hey," he said sharply. He heard Jessie stop at the top of the stairs, but she didn't come down. "Do you want to call this whole thing off?" he asked. "What?" she shouted. This lemonade war," he said. "Call it off?" "Yeah," he said. "Just say nobody wins and nobody loses." Jessie walked down the stairs and stood with her arms crossed. Evan looked at her. He missed her. He had spent the whole day, the third to last day before school started, by himself. It stunk. It totally stunk. If Jessie had been around and they hadn't been fighting with each other, they could have played air hockey or made pretzels or built a marble track with twice as many gizmos that launched the marble into the bullseye's cup every time. Jessie was very precise. She was good at getting the marble to go into the cup. "What do you say?" he asked. Jessie looked puzzled. "I don't know," she said, frowning. "You see, Megan she..." Evan felt his face go hot. Megan Moriarty. Every time he thought of her, his throat got all squeezed and scratchy. It was like the allergic reaction he had if he accidentally ate a shrimp. "You told Megan Moriarty about everything?" he asked, feeling itchy all over. "No, well, what everything?" asked Jessie. Evan thought she looked like a fish caught in a net. "You did!" And suddenly Evan knew exactly why Jessie had been smiling when she walked in the door, and why she didn't want to call off the war. She had done it. Again. She had figured out some way to show the world just how stupid he was. Like the time he'd come home with 100% on his weekly spelling quiz. The only time he'd ever gotten every word right. To find that Jessie had won a statewide poetry writing contest. He'd thrown his paper into the trash without even telling his mom. What was the point? Evan didn't know how, but somehow Jessie found a way to earn more than $103. She was going to beat him, and Megan Moriarty knew all about it. And she would tell everyone else. All the girls would know. Paul would know, and Ryan, and Adam and Jack. Scott Spencer would know. Can you believe it? He lost to his little sister, the one who's going to be in our class. What a loser. "You know what?" he said, pushing past her. "Forget it. Just forget I said anything. The war is on. O-N. Prepare to die." That was intense. What do you think about Evan's kind of words on the bottom of page 126? And he said, "She did it again. She had figured out some way to show the world just how stupid he was." Why do you think Evan feels like that? Why do you think he feels like he's stupid? Do you think it's because Jessie is just so extra smart and just things come naturally to her and she doesn't seem to struggle with schoolwork like that? She doesn't really have to, right? She's not doing it. Is she doing it to kind of put Evan down, to be mean? No, she's just doing what's natural to her, right? To be good at those things. Do you think she knows how Evan's feeling? Why do you think she doesn't know how Evan's feeling? Because remember, Jessie's really bad at telling people's feelings. It's one of the things she's not good at. It's her worst subject, like she said. Whereas Evan's usually pretty good at it. Is he on with this one, though? Does he know how Jessie's feeling? No, he doesn't, right? He's missing some important things about maybe, like, why she would be doing something. So why is she doing this lemonade war? To feel like she belongs, right? She can hang with those fourth graders. She's not just some baby. She belongs. Yeah, all right. So we will come back tomorrow. So in your packet, we have our chapter 9 questions. 1, what's the word definition? Whose perspective? Who is Grumpminster Fink? Why is Evan having second thoughts about the contest? And how do the events relate to the word defined? Or maybe there's not one. Why do you think there's not a relationship? You can cross off the back of this page because we did this where we came up with a question and then traded it with a friend. So if you want to, this is a great way to practice making questions. You can come up with a who, what, where, when, why, and how question for anything in the novel so far. And you can have somebody at home try and answer it too, okay? So that's all we got. You just have to do 1 through 5 for homework tonight. Let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, see you next time.